Me. La 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 la. Testing 1, 2. Can anybody hear this? Hopefully it's working. Does anybody hear this? Well, it's a Pete Thorn Sunday Live, talking about your whammy bar and your overdrive. Can you hear everything? Let me know. This is a whole new setup I got going today, and God, I hope it works. Loud and clear, says Steven. Excellent. Sweet. It all works. So what have I got going on here? A whole new audio setup. Whole new audio setup. Guitar sound good? Should be stereo, with stereo reverb and stereo echo on your end. Pete sounds like he's been drinking. No. Believe me. Stone cold sober. So I figured out how to configure UA, Universal Audio Console. John says it sounds killer. That's great. I figured out how to configure it with full stereo audio of anything that's coming out of my computer, basically. So like I could play iTunes, I could play Logic. Right now, I'm just using, for the guitar sound, what you're hearing, first of all, it's the PT100 going into the Sur reactive load. And then I'm just taking the speaker simulated line out of the reactive load into UA console, which is the software that goes with my recording interface. And I'm adding a plate reverb and a stereo, slightly modulated delay, 400 and 800 millisecond split, with the high end all toned down. And yeah, so then the microphone. This comes courtesy of Shure and Sweetwater. They're having a promotion this month, so that they asked me to be involved in it. And it's basically like sale on, Shure stuff like, Beta 87s and 57s and 58s and KSM 32s and all the great mics. And so I picked up a SM7B. And this is the industry standard kind of broadcast microphone, radio microphone. There's other ones. There's the RE20 and the other one, but this one you see all the time. And it's also a killer recording mic. I think this is the mic that Michael Jackson used to prefer, and like a lot of the Thriller vocals are recorded through this. But they're great because it's a super durable dynamic mic, but it's got a great big kind of studio sound. I really like them actually on female vocalists. It's such a killer mic. If you've ever got like a female rock vocalist or something that has a kind of a shrill voice, and you can use this mic and it just warms them right up, and it's just a beautiful mic for using on female vocalists. You sing as loud as you want into it without fear of distortion or anything like that. And yeah. So I added, I basically got the microphone plugged into a DBX 560 mic pre that I have, that's been sitting kind of not being utilized for anything much. And so I thought, let's use it. It's in my 500 series rack over there from Vintage King. So that's the mic pre. And then I'm also running a Manley Vox box on the channel so that I can add some compression. I think I'm rolling off low end on the Vox box a little bit, just like super, super lows. And there you go. So it should sound way better than whatever I was doing in the past, which was good too. That mic served me well. It's a terrific mic. It's a Samson USB large diaphragm condenser mic, but it didn't have any compression on it or anything like that. It was very basic compared to what I'm doing right now. This requires a little more setup and it's a little more complex, but it's pretty cool to be able to play. That's fun to be able to play. Check my tuning here. There we go. Cool. So I don't have it set up right now where I can really switch between radically different guitar tones or anything like that. I just wanted to kind of get it going and have the option of I guess I can add my pedals and stuff. There's an Echoplex. Boost. My Archer. Archer's my security blanket as far as leads go. Like, if you listen to the tone, it's already gainy, and you can solo with it, with the amount of gain I got going on the PT100, but that's with no Archer. With the Archer, just makes notes fat and sing forever. It's great. All right, what are you guys talking about? Let's see here. Let's see. What are you guys talking about? You're talking about all kinds of stuff in the chat. Surgeries and all kinds of situations. We got Vincent here. We got Kurt. We got John. We got Keith Campbell stating that his back hurts. You guys complaining about your health conditions. We all got them. It's true. I can hear a difference in your voice with the SM7, says G-Man. Yeah, hopefully it sounds good. I can't, one of the things is I can't actually monitor it in here, or else I'd get feedback coming through the speakers. So unless I use headphones, which I don't want to do. So I basically got, I found a great tutorial online about how to set up console in a unique way, UA console, so that I could do this setup with no headphones, have the guitar working and the whole 9 yards, have the mic working, but not feedback with the speakers, mic coming through the speakers. It's complicated. You don't want to know all that stuff. But there's a great tutorial that a guy did on how to set it up. And it worked. Greg says, can the PT15 do JCM 800 tones? I just remembered that I got to do something in YouTube here that I didn't do. So just 2 seconds here while I answer that question. Long story short, I believe so. A lot of amps that are out there that are kind of, hot roddy Marshall-y stuff, and this would go for, a Friedman and Sir, and, a lot of the amps out there in the market. They're all, we're talking about a Marshall kind of architecture here, like throughout the amplifier. And then it's tweaks here and there, So the 800, certainly Marshall, the Plexi, and then the 800 after that, they have a lot in common with 800s for sure. That's the blueprint, and then you're just tweaking things along the way and adding and taking away, and it can affect the sound very much. But at the end of the day, we are kind of with certainly the PT100 and the PT15. We're talking about a tweaked 800 circuit, really. There's a lot in common with an 800, And then it's just where you tune it. It's like a recipe, It's a carbonara or whatever. It's a bolognese, but it's like, the way that you obviously, yeah, okay. We've got, all the ingredients that go into the recipe, and then how you mix up those ingredients, maybe a little spice that you add here and there can greatly affect the recipe. I guess that's the best description I can give. I think that the PT15 is definitely, if you like 800s. The problem I have with 800s is generally, unless you turn the master way, way up, they sound a little anemic and a little woolly. So, just a little, very interesting thing happens when you turn that master all the way up. I've talked about this before, to like 7. And then all of a sudden, for some reason, the amp just opens up and sounds fantastic. But of course, it's ungodly loud, and you'd have to use some sort of attenuator, or not. You could just rock it, like the greats did. But yeah. So Lawrence says, "Are you playing through monitors?" Yeah. So I've got my, just at a nice, listening volume. I got my my Atom monitors running right now. And you will hear a little bit of the sound of the monitors coming back through the microphone, but these mics are pretty directional, I think, so it's pointing towards me and not the speakers. And but you can hear a little bit of string noise and stuff for sure, I think. Joe Harvey asks a great question, just a general question here right now. Thoughts on IRs? So, well, I can actually, because I have the Sir Reactive Load hooked up right now, I can actually do a little demo of IRs. So This is a greenback and 121. That's what you're hearing right now on this particular SIR impulse response, or it's a Celestion impulse response in the SIR reactive load that I have hooked up. So if I change it, so it's a greenback 412, 57, 121 blended. Let's change it to just a 57. There's your single 57 kind of just to the outside of the cap, the cap edge. Different sound, right? It's brighter and a little more just that 57, they're kind of hashy sounding, but it's got a thing. And then if I go to the dark 57, this would be the equivalent of moving the mic a little further out into the paper. So then I moved it back. That's pretty cool, right? Let's go to the next bank. These are V30s, I think. So that's a blended 57 and 121. Now I'll go to just the 57. And the dark 57 now. This is a great, this dark 57 V30 thing is a great kind of modern lead sound. It's just got a good cutting kind of, V30, but not too, moving the mic out into the paper, has a nice effect on the sound. Anyway, so there's a little, this box is so great because it's such instant gratification. I can just get all these different speaker sounds. So long story short, my take is I love IRs because I can do such radical stuff and get work done. By radical, I mean like different speakers, boom, 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 different microphone positions, boom, 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 without having to actually go physically move a mic or change cabinets or anything. So you get work done, And for me, I sort of forget that I'm playing through, it sounds a lot like cabs in the other room. So I forget, that and I just get work done. I don't know. I've been a fan of this stuff for a long time though, so as you guys know, but anyways, put your voice through the black hole, says John. I could actually do that, but it would take me a while to configure that. So I'm not going to do it. I can put my voice in the plate reverb right now. How would I do that? Let's see. I would have to go let me see. You should hear, I'm not going to hear it, but you should hear reverb if I do this. Hey, check. Whoa, yeah, I hear that for sure. Hey, check. Maybe you don't hear it. I don't know. I think you do. Ooh, and some feedback. See, that's pulling up the send into the reverb that I'm using on my guitar, and then only the reverb vocal is coming through the speakers in the room. It's a kind of a crazy, sophisticated mixer setup that I'm doing to do this thing today, but it works. Where did I get the tutorial at, says Guitar777. I just searched on YouTube for using UA console for streaming, and I found a video that described how to do it. There's a bunch of videos, but there's only one guy that did a video on how to do it with this setup I've got right now using QSends. So he's a streaming guy. He sounds like he does electronic music, so you might see him. He kind of had hair tied back, mustache, and he was an intelligent guy, obviously, and had this whole setup going. Also using an SM7, I think, or a 57. Actually, I had a 57 on a stand. You can learn everything on YouTube. It's awesome. You should try reversing the phase in the mic to avoid feedback during monitoring. Well, I don't have to monitor it. That's the thing. So I can have the speakers up as loud as I want. With this setup, I don't need to hear the mic through the speakers. That's the whole thing. It's better to not hear it. As long as I see that there's level, and if you guys can hear it, it's fine. For me. So this is a really good setup. I just made presets in UA console so that I could get back to this setup really quickly. Have you experienced any ground loop problems when connecting two amps from one guitar and pedal board? Sure. Yeah. Absolutely 100%. How do you solve it? Well, I have on my desk right now a great solution. I'm going to have to unplug it from the setup that I have going, but I'm happy to show it to you. I've shown it before. This is a great way to solve that right here. I'm using this for something else right now, but this is a radial, basically like an ABY switcher, but it has on it these two switches right here. One of them is a phase flip, and one of them is a ground isolation switch. So if you use this, you can go AB between your 2 amps or Y. It'll feed out to both. And without fail, if you use 2, you will have a ground loop. Fender Twin and a JCM 800 or something, let's say, whatever. Clean, dirty, AC30 and whatever. So you have to turn this switch on right here, which is the lift for the B output. And then it lifts that, that ground going to that second amp, does it safely and everything like that. And then you're not going to have any buzz. So that's one basic way to do it. Now there's other ways to do it. You can use an EBTech HumX on the power cord for the second amp. It's like an AC, sort of like a 3 to 2. It's a fancy 3 to 2, but I think it's safer than using, where it's like, you've got just eliminating the ground essentially. The best way to do it is this though, on the way to the amplifier, using the audio cable that's patched into that second amp. So yeah, that's all it is an isolation transformer that'll break that ground, and because you can only have one path to ground is the thing, and when you get the 2 paths, then you get the ground loop going. So yeah, my niece Hurt says I use the PT amp plugin almost daily. Just recorded the clean channel last night. That's awesome. I almost thought about using it today for this setup, but instead I'm using the real amp, the PT100. It would be fun actually to do like a little comparison, maybe I'll do this next week or something, where I run the real amp and then I run the plug-in, and I could switch between them like pretty much instantly on the show here and show you what they both sound like. If I did it and ran them both into the same speaker sim, you would get the real apples to apples, taking the cab and the cab sound and the mic sound out of the equation, just making it exactly the same, and you could listen to the real head versus the plug-in. It's very, very close. It's a great tool, that plugin. Yeah. The Sir Sheba drive, Jeff says, I like the Sheba. Does what the Archer does. Both are a must. Yeah, I mean, right now I have, like, for example, a Maxon 808 and a Archer both hooked up. So this is the Archer. And then this is the 808. So to me, one centered in the upper mids and the other one centered kind of fatter lower mids. So if you want great big fat single notes, the Archer works great. It's just overall round big single notes. If you want more cut and some low end cut, like by cut I mean like top end, high mids and stuff, then go to the 808 style, and that's sort of more what the Sheba's based on, although I don't know exactly how it was voiced. It could be centered more lower mids too, you can shift that, kind of where the mids get boosted, and that's really what we're talking about. It's like 2 different drive circuits with different EQ. So this is the 808 again. And then the Archer. The 808 does a more cutting thing that works really well for certain things, Yeah. All right. What else have we got here? What else? Van Halen DOA. DOA is this. It's like that. It's pretty straight. It's sort of one of the most straightforward of any Van Halen song to play, I think. the leads are kind of random. I don't remember the solos right now, but I'd have to go back and revisit it from when I learned it for Mitch's show a while ago. But that's the riff. It's like a punk rock. Van Halen did a few back in the early days, a few tunes. They always said "Ain't Talking About Love" was kind of like, although the arpeggio thing is not that easy. That's kind of intricate, but Eddie always said that it was like more like a punk thing, like real simple, 2 chords, kind of dumb. Of course, I'm not an E flat, but anyways. The only thing that sounds like a JCM 800 is a JCM 800. I guess. I don't know. I mean, you could very easily make an amp that sounds exactly like a JCM 800, but most of them are kind of tweaked because the 800 is sort of Although they are great. I don't like them that much like the way most people use them. But, there's one guy that used it in the way, maybe Jake too, but Warren. Because Warren basically was using an 800, but the way that he used the 800, which was viciously loud with the master all the way up. And once I realized that, it was like, oh my God, what this thing does, like, you got to have the master up above 6. And then it gets really cool. Then it's like, it's basically sort of sounds like a plexi then, and just has a little more gain. And it's really cool. And that's, Lay It Down and all those tunes are that sound, and it's a great sound. But yeah, and I own a JMP 2203. Is that similar? Yeah, I mean that's basically it's an 800. Sorry, they didn't change, really. I mean, they made a few changes over the architecture of the front end and everything. It's basically the same, The voltages I think changed and stuff and different stuff, but Jeff says unmodded 800s are thin. See, I find them to be kind of woolly, though. Like, yeah, they're a little anemic, I think, is what it is. You can bump the gain a little bit, and then they sound better, with some tweaks and stuff. But John says I prefer a plexi tone. I basically do, too, It's just, of course, with the plexi, you got to turn it up so loud, right? Well, with the 800, you can do that, too, and it actually sounds really great. It's just, with the 800, you've got this other gain stage in front, but it's the way that it's configured. It's like, I don't think optimal is what I've kind of learned, and you can just kind of tweak that and then it gets a better thing. Although if you turn it up to 7 or 8, then it makes up for that and then it sounds incredible, but it's kind of a one-trick pony, I think. Okay, I'm super far back in the chat, so I'm going to go down. Oh, I missed some super chat. Sorry about that, guys. Here's Robert. Archer Gold, Rockaway, or Silver. So the Archer I'm using right now is a silver one, but it's got the Jeff Beck mods. And I don't know what that means, but he told me it's got some different parts and stuff in it than the standard Archer that and I tried it and I'm like, this thing sounds amazing. I've been using it ever since. It's been on my board for over 5 years, I think. So it's my main lead thing. I don't even think about it. I just use it 95% of the time. I'll just hit it in front of the channel 3 of the PT15. I guess for the last few years is when my main thing that I've used it on. It works great. Okay. Can't see the riff because the text is in the way. Was that the DOA riff? The DOA riff is just... No, the neck back up. It's such an easy riff, actually. It's like kind of like... I guess if you got to have a good... decent left hand, I think maybe I think that's a harder riff to play off that record. Don't need all that delay and stuff for that too, but DOA is pretty straightforward, really. Great. It's a great riff. Okay, I got a super chat here I gotta grab. Who's that? That's John. Finally caught one. How are you? Hello from East Coast Canada. What's happening, man? How you doing? What's up? What's up? What's up? Warren DeMartini. Yeah, Warren DeMartini. Yeah, Warren 800 circuit, basically. What else we got here? 800 with a master on 6.5 and boosting it with a treble booster is godlike. I bet that'd sound pretty good. Might get a little crazy with the treble booster depending on the bright cap on the amp, but if you did that with no bright cap, it'd probably be really unbelievable. I think a mid booster is really good in front of a Marshall that has a bright cap. I like more obviously, I mean, kind of the Archer's kind of a mid booster, really, but there's like the Sir Coco boost is great when you want a more polite treble boost because the amp is already bright. I like treble boosts in front of amps that are like all like dark, too dark. Is the way to use a good treble booster. It's gonna be fun because these are some things I can demonstrate on this. I don't want to take time to do it right now, but like I could make notes, I guess, or something. Next week, demonstrate a treble booster in front of, you can almost demo stuff on the fly. It's kind of fun. I have a more polite treble booster on my board, which is the, let me see here. It's the Unit 67 from Drybell. I've also got, let's turn down the compression, see where the tone controls are set. This pedal, you hear me turning it on. It's not doing a whole heck of a lot right now. If I crank the treble booster, that's kind of gnarly sounding. Sounds good. But it's a little, right? So if I turn off the bright on the amp, sort of. That sounds pretty cool. That's a Unit 67 from Drybell, and Drybell makes such interesting pedals. It's a clean boost with simple high and low EQ, but it also has a Rangemaster style one knob boost built in and a compressor. It's not as aggressive as a real Rangemaster, but it kind of does that thing that you just heard. And that you heard when I turned off the bright on the amp, then it was like, I think it sounded better because it's like just a little too bright otherwise, if that makes sense. Yeah. Didn't Slash use an 800 in the early days of Guns? I'm sure he used lots of stuff. I mean, the classic amp that he used on Appetite or whatever was that, was it the number 34 mod or whatever from SIR? They rented amps to do that. And, it had a... oh, God, I'm spacing on the guy's name now that did the mod on it. But you guys know what I'm talking about. And it had a certain kind of mid-range drive to it that was, just kind of a thing. Vincent says he just bought a Mark 6. Is that what that is? Roman numeral? And your cab pack from Two Notes. Is there such a thing as a Mark 6? Just landed in China, and surprisingly, I'm enjoying being in quarantine for a whole week. Oh, that's fun. Well, you're doing it right. You're playing guitar and having a good time and making the most of your time. I like it. Let's see. What else we got? Tom Morello has that thick and clangy JCM 800. Well, Tom Morello uses the channel switching 800, which is kind of the least popular Marshall of the 70s and 80s, I think. And yet he obviously put it to good use. Something about Tom Morello I found so interesting that he details maybe in his rig rundown is that he only used the neck pickup. Like, he basically has the bridge pickup off and plays through the neck pickup. So all his EQ and everything on his amps must be dialed for that neck pickup sound. I know, like, some of you out there are probably going, really? But go back and listen to it. I played a ton of Tom Morello riffs, like, with Chris Cornell for years without realizing that. And doing it on the wrong pickup. We had two guitar players in our band, so it was like, I guess that adds to the thickness right there, and maybe neck pickup would have been too much. But, it's all a sum of the parts, I guess. And one of the things about Audio Slave and Rage was the bass sound being so gnarly, and then that melded to Tom's guitar sound, So Tom wasn't real dirty, I don't think. Like, his sound there's a lot of dirt in the bass and the upper end distorted part of the bass because you had a clean low end of the bass because he used like kind of like a 2-amp rig, I think, Tim. And he had all this grind on the top end and then the thing on the bottom. And then Tom kind of was maybe like mid-range grunt or something, but using the neck pickup. So recently I played Like a Stone at something at the Whiskey, and I did it all on the neck pickup, and it sounds awesome like that. It's like, okay, yeah, if you just kind of EQ the sound right for the neck pickup, it works, and it's actually sounds. There's a whole bunch of stuff about that I didn't realize. Like I'll demonstrate one right now that I never had figured out about Tom Morello, and so I'm gonna just turn off this delay for a second, and then I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about here. So now you're not hearing any delay. One of the things was Cochise, the intro that sounds like a helicopter. Okay, so I was always like, how's he doing that? Is it like tremolo? Is it like, what is it? And it's not tremolo, it's just delay set super fast. So I can demonstrate it with my Echoplex right now. One sec here. So. It's about there on the time. A little faster. That's a little too slow still, but this is how he did it. So for those that don't know, I'm talking about you probably also played that riff here. And on the neck pickup. Right? But so it's just one repeat on the delay. It's not hard. Turn on the delay. And then you just do it in rhythm. Okay, I didn't do that back in the day because I didn't understand it yet. You know, I think we just used to not play the intro, actually. We just used to go straight into the... right into that, right? So, anyway, it's just kind of funny. I'm still learning things, you know? And he's a really interesting cat, Morello. He talk about getting a lot out of a few things, you know? Not chasing gear so much, but using his gear that he had to the max. He was really great at that. Your tones are sounding mighty sweet, says Arthur. Thank you, man. Chops are always on point. Thanks. I'm not warmed up or anything, so I appreciate you saying. I just got in. I had to spend most of the time getting the audio setup going and stuff. So for those that are just joining now, I'm using a new mic, and I've got my guitar streaming with full stereo, hopefully on your end. Let me turn up my delay again, because I turned that down for the Morello description there. So you should hear a stereo delay ping pong. And some plate reverb and stuff. And I got all this going and working with this new microphone, which is the Shure SM7B. So one more time, I'll bring it up. One more little plug, because I got this from my friends at Sweetwater and Shure. It's an SM7B, the industry standard kind of broadcast microphone, and I set it all up with a nice DBX pre and a Manley Vox box plug-in to add some compression, and now I feel like I've got a hello radio announcer voice probably going. I can't hear it because of the way it's not coming through the speakers, but I know you guys can hear it, and I've tested it a bunch, and it sounds pretty good, I think. So I'm stoked. Yeah. All right. What else we got here? Been away for a while. Looks like you have a new audio situation in the stream. Yes, sir. Distorted guitar tone does not get all data compression artifacty. Sounds killer. Awesome. Yeah, it's full quality, you know, coming out through the, like, basically anything I play. Like, I could go into iTunes and, you know, play songs and stuff, and you should hear it clear as a bell coming out through the stream. So I'll get into that over time, like if there's audio examples I'm trying to think of, or song examples or solos or whatever. I can actually play them now, and it's just kind of fun. I just got it all set up, so really happy with it. Ryan's asking, can your Dyne IR packs be used on devices other than 2 notes? This is a good question, and the answer is I don't think so. Like, so you're saying, can you export the IRs? The IRs are actually dependent because it's Dyne IRs, so it's like their own 2 notes format. So you kind of need the 2 notes gear to host them. It's a kind of like an ecosystem or whatever that they exist within there. You could make a static impulse response of a Dyne IR and then use that. You'd have to make a wave file impulse response. There's ways to do that of a particular cab sound and then load it into anything. Would it sound different? Supposedly the Dyne IRs respond. Celestian's got their own version of this too, where they supposedly respond more like a real speaker. Like, so if you're hitting them harder, the sound changes a little bit. A traditional wave impulse response, which is what I'm playing through right now. I'm just using Celestion IRs. Through my Sur reactive load. So a traditional IR doesn't do that. It's just kind of it's a static response of, a microphone on a speaker, but without the, distortion anomalies and things like that can happen when you push a speaker hard. So that's what you're getting supposedly with the Dyne IRs, as well as with the Celestion dynamic impulse responses. I know they've got a different name for theirs, but anyways, I hope that sort of answers that question. I think you'd have to basically use a Torpedo, a Captor X or a Cab M to use the 2 notes IRs and use them live as they are, and take full advantage of them. Okay, what else have we got here? New setup is excellent, says Dave. Great job. Thanks. Yeah, I really like it. It's nice. Feels good having this mic here and stuff. I should mention I got a great boom arm for it. That's a Gator. So it's like, that's what it's mounted to, and it's clipped to my desk. You can't see all that, but it's a Gator boom arm. So, yep. Your mic sounds great. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. If you're reading this, you're really behind in the chat. Okay. I'm going to move down. I'm going to go to the bottom of the chat. So, sorry, I'm excited about this setup, and I'm just playing a little bit and stuff, so I'm probably avoiding some of the questions, which I shouldn't be doing. I'm going to get more on it now. Been away a while. Looks like you have a new audio situation. Yeah. Oh, sorry. I saw this already from Christopher. Thanks, Christopher, for the super chat. I appreciate that. Okay. Yeah. I heard riff constantly in high school and had no idea. Are you talking about the Cochise thing? It's pretty interesting, right? It's like that whole the delay thing, and it came to me later. There's a lot. It's such a obviously on so many levels. I'm so depressed about it on and off, and on a regular basis that I can't ever play with the great Chris Cornell again. I miss him daily. But on a very, very stupid, superficial level, one of the things that bothers me is I'd love to get that right and play that song properly with that guy again. I mean, we did a great job of it, I think, a great rendition, but it's like, I know how to do more things now. It's like I'm better at it now than I used to be. Life's interesting because you get older and then you just keep learning things and moving on. And growing up and stuff and learning new stuff all the time. And guitar is definitely like that. So I'm always learning stuff every week. You guys teach me stuff every week. It never ends, which is what's fun about guitar. John Norum using the JCM 800 2205. Yes, believe so. Yeah, he was another kind of famous user of that thing. I had my first good amp really was the solid state version, the Lead 100 MOSFET. Same controls, same everything, but it was basically just MOSFET design. So, yeah. So, what else we got here? Let's see. Have you played the Marshall 30th anniversary amps? I liked them back in the day. I thought it was a really cool amp, but evidently there's a lot of problems with them, just kind of thermally and stuff. I don't think they were very reliable. It was the first Marshall that I can think of that seemed to have, true 3-channel and then with like a cool clean channel, because they were kind of like, remember when they came out, people were talking about the clean channel, saying it was really good, So, yeah. Oh, Steven says he saw me in Edmonton with Chris. That's cool. Which gig was it? Was it the weird tent one? That one was really fun, actually. Because I think we did 2. We did one. Okay, we did both venues were a little strange. We did Reds at West Edmonton Mall, which was like a a big club basically, and then we did the tent out at the casino. They were both wacky venues. We never played like the Coliseum or the Convention Center or anything. They were like these kind of just not like the primo venues in town, but it was still cool. It was awesome to play there. I remember having a big party after the second gig, which is the Reds gig, where a lot of like my friends came and we all got on the bus in the front lounge and just kind of took over, and it was like all my high school friends. So here we are, all these guys, like 15 years later after graduating from school, and nobody had really changed. That's my memory of it, was like the same people that you would expect to get really drunk and fall down did it. Got carried by their friends. I just thought, this is amazing. Like, here we are all these years later, and yeah, people don't really change that much. So it was fun. Great seeing you at the Who Bowl gig. Hey man, what's up? Still using your Comet? Yeah, I've got it right here actually. It's plugged in. I could actually very easily patch into it right now and get some different amps going if I wanted to. Let me know if you guys want to hear anything. Like, I could get that going, like the 50-watt Marshall or the Soldano or the SL68 or the Comet. It would just take me a second to kind of configure. That's all. Oh, yeah. All right. Super chat there that I missed. It's about to disappear. Who's that? What are you doing for Thanksgiving? If you want to come to Charlotte, you're always welcome. Oh, thanks, man. I think I'm covered. But Thanksgiving is a weird one for me because I'm American now, as well as Canadian. I'm a citizen of both countries, a dual national, I guess. That's a nice chord. But I didn't grow up with Thanksgiving, American Thanksgiving, right? So, I feel like it's your early memories or whatever that form you or kind of like inform you, and what feels like a big deal, like holiday-wise. So I didn't grow up with American Thanksgiving. So every year when it comes around, it's like, oh yeah, that's happening in a couple of weeks. Whereas Americans, it's like as big as Christmas. And I never, people will fly all the way across the country to go home for it. I would never, I don't have that connection with it from my first 20 years of life, But now I have fun and I just kind of land wherever I land on Thanksgiving, generally with, generally family of friends, I guess, in the U.S., and that's where I end up, and it always feels good, We have Canadian Thanksgiving too, but it's not a big deal. It feels like it's on a different day, and it feels like a little bit more of it's like as big as Easter. That's it, I don't know how else to describe it. However you consider it. I guess Easter is different for depending on how religious you are in the U.S. But yeah, it's just not as big of a deal as it is in the U.S. Canadian Thanksgiving. For the coffee fun as we head into winter weather, says Ryan. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah. Horst says, so true. You always learn. I was fast and loud and good tapping guy when I was 20 and meet Ed, but now at 50, I'm a way better guitar player and play his songs better. Yeah, I can play them better than I used to back then too, I mean, I'm more like into the geeky super details, and we also have more things now where we can get really into the, with isolated tracks and really go, oh, that's how he did it, I played a lot of stuff wrong for a long time. I guess that's how you end up with your own style, though, playing it wrong, and then but Anyway. T-Top says, I saw you a few times with Chris. Oh, thanks, man. That warms my heart. I'm glad some of you guys, that's pre-YouTube and all that business, my old career. It's so funny, man. I did a Premier Guitar rig rundown. And maybe you guys saw that. It came out this week, officially listed on YouTube and all that. And some guy in the comments goes like, why is he here? He's just a YouTuber. And I always think like, it's just funny because it's like YouTube came for me, I mean, really more than 15 years into my career. It was like where I was just getting started on YouTube, but I'd already like toured all over the place and done. I'd had a couple record deals and been in a bunch of different bands. Wasn't really well known or anything like that, but I was a professional musician doing things other than YouTube, for a long time. But it's just funny because people be like, "I was a YouTuber." It's like, you could have a career for like 25 years and do a few YouTube videos that blow up, and now you're just a YouTuber. What about all that other crap? All those other in the van, and, across, Canada and the U.S. and Europe and all that stuff. No, doesn't count. Okay, whatever, I guess. I mean, the biggest gig I ever played in my life was in Colombia, well before there was a YouTube. There was 140,000 people there, but nobody cares about that stuff. They care about the YouTube, I guess. It was funny, but that's fine. And the other thing about that I think is funny is that who cares if you know a guitar player through YouTube or you know them through a record? I don't see the difference, honestly. I mean, I think it's good to complete musical ideas and put them out in a documented form with a cover and all that stuff. It's great. But if you become a fan of a player on YouTube and their playing and creativity and whatever their content, whatever it is, resonates with you, it's just another medium to get out there like I'm doing right now with you guys. It doesn't matter whether you see them live in a club or whether you see them on a YouTube video. It's all about whether or not you're interested in whatever that person's doing, be it, auto repair or playing guitar or whatever it is. Who cares? So it's just such a weird way to think about it. Like, oh, why does this person deserve to be, in a magazine? They're just a YouTuber or whatever, And what is a magazine anymore? Because they do more online than they do with a printed magazine. So it's like they're on YouTube too. It's like one YouTube channel covering another YouTube channel. He's just a YouTuber. Why are you? Well, we do YouTube. So it's such a weird, like very, very narrow, I like to stand back and look at things, stand back above it and kind of look at it from the big picture. Like, what are you talking about? Weird. I saw you in Amsterdam with Chris. I remember that show. 2 shows, actually, so it could be either one. Did we do Paradiso with Chris? I don't remember, but I remember this place, I think, that you're talking about, which was a cool venue. It was I only played there with him. It was bigger than Paradiso, if my memory serves correct. And I love Amsterdam. It's such a great city. Love Amsterdam. Just terrific part of the world. I love, Netherlands is amazing. I'd love to go back. Such a good time. The last time I was there, it was so much fun, staying in this little place outside Zwolle, and with a windmill. It was beautiful. Will the H90 replace anything on your board besides the H9s? And how hard is it to set up and program your switcher? Love you too. It will replace both the H9s, I think. I just want to have that one unit down on the board to basically do what the H9s were doing, but I'm sure I'll find other uses for it too. It'll just streamline things a little bit, just having one pedal instead of 2, I think, and being a little bit easier for me to program without having to get into the getting into the editor and all that, Tips on getting back in the saddle after not playing regularly. My fingers are weak. Just, go slow and warm up. I have to warm up, man. I mean, when I sit down to play, I just do the old chromatic, quasi-chromatic, strict alternate picking. I'm not even a big fan of doing that stuff because it's not very musical, but it does get your hands synced. I'd rather spend more of my time playing things that are musical. I remember, that's the one way to do it, right? Where I'm just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 up every string, and then when I hit the 4th fret on the high E string, I shift up a fret to the 5th fret and then go backwards. So 5, 4, 3, 2. Shifted up to the 3rd fret when I got to the bottom. Up. If I just do this quietly, I'm really good. Steve Morse had a couple of unbelievable cool warm-up picking exercises in his articles over the years. They're very difficult to play. That's it. God, I almost got it. I'm pretty stoked on myself right now. It's really, really hard because there's a lot of cross-picking over all the strings where you're playing arpeggios, but you're actually like playing like a B7. It looks like the B7 bar chord, what you're playing, you know? So there's only one note per string. It's such a bitch to play that thing, honestly. And I'll just put the metric, and it's not about playing it fast, it's about playing it accurately, you know? So I'll put I learned it from a Steve Morse article in Guitar Player magazine many years ago. If I can play that, I can play anything. If I can get that down at a little bit faster tempo, you know, I'll just do it. And I can feel my hand, like my nerves, and you know, when I do it, because my left hand is a little problematic sometimes. I can feel it act up. And if I just do that for a few minutes, it gets the blood flowing and gets my hands synced across the strings. And it works really well for me. So that's an example of a musical exercise that sounds really cool and musical that's basically accomplishing the same thing as the old, you know, that old thing. So I like to do stuff like that. There's another one that goes like this. Sound better clean without any overdrive, but that's the idea. And so I'll do those two. I learned those like 20 years ago or more or something, and they still just feel like such good warm-ups to me. And I got them both from Steve Morse, I believe, out of his Guitar Player magazine column, which was fantastic, you know, really fantastic. So I really appreciate Steve. Some super chats I got to get to here. What day and time next week? To ask about my entire rig, starting with my Marshall JMP 2061X. Those are cool amps. Back in a bit, changing the battery in the car. Day and time next week. Well, I'll be here always Sundays. Sunday mornings. You bet. Let's see. Is the old Lexicon PCM 70, 80, 81 still something to say in 2022? Well, they're classics. You know, there's a few pieces of rack mount gear out there. I would say the H3000, H949, 910, you know, the TC2290, the PCM 70, 80, 81 are certainly included, as well as the PCM 42 and 41. You know, these are classic pieces of gear that still command, just like an 1176 would, quite a bit of money because they have a very cool, distinct sound, you know? So, yes, I think the Lexicons, even though, you know, you can get units now that will probably get you there that are, you know, more, you know, adept at doing tons of effects and all that. But the reality is some people just still want you know, like there's always a place for the classics, I think. So, yeah. Yeah. Oh, this is funny. Some people think Bukovac is a YouTuber. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter how many records you play on, or, you know, it's like, you know, it's, and that's funny because you could just, you know, probably see his name on album credits. Well, nobody reads album credits anymore, though, because everybody's streaming. So, which sucks. You know, it should be. I never understood that about iTunes and stuff. It's like, hey, just put in the extra effort and make a little more. Like, you put liner notes. It's cool. It's like added value for people on iTunes and da 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 da. You know. Like, people are still interested in the liner notes. That's my point. All night gig in Japan for 30,000 says hey, that was 100,000 in Japan. But I actually played for more people in Colombia. The other gig I was talking about was 140. It was insane. That was like 2003 or 4 that I did that show. 140,000 people. And yeah, you're just a YouTuber. I don't know, man. It's like I don't understand. All right. Adam says, really enjoyed the Premier Guitar video. Thanks. PT100 sound fantastic, as did the Ibanez and the old 335. Those stuck out. Yeah, I'm playing through the 100 right now, and it's... When I play it, it's just like great. I mean, it's... I don't, you know, that's all the modded Marshall I ever need, really. So I love it. So... John did a great job. Let's see. Print is dead, some of you guys are saying. I still love to pick up a good guitar magazine, but yeah, I know it's... I used to be so excited to get Guitar Player and, every month and flip through the pages and stuff, and now I just don't have the same thing for it, and I think, I mean, I still enjoy it. I'll look through it and I get a little bit of that back, but I think we all just got so desensitized and overstimulated by our friggin' phones and stuff that, now you're on to the next, on to the next, on to the next, and our brains have all been affected. Nobody's got an attention span long enough to sit there and flip through a magazine anymore. Plus, there's just the fact that it's not interactive. You can't comment like you can on here, right? It's people like the interactive thing, so it's just different. And, yeah. I still have every BMX magazine, says My Knees Hurt, printed in the 80s. They were mostly ads. It's true, but I loved the ads, it's part of it. I don't know. Back in the day, I mean, the guitar ads were like, I remember some of them so well. Like I remember Eddie Van Halen on the motorcycle with Floyd Rose. Anybody remember that one? Or, when I first saw him with his Axis guitar in like 90, it wasn't called the Axis, it was the Eddie Van Halen model, but you know what I'm talking about. I remember the comment was something like, I played my last guitar, I designed this one, big difference, something like that. Remember that ad where he's got and I looked at it and my first inclination was like, that's kind of weird. It looks sort of like a telly with a flame top. That doesn't look like Eddie Van Halen, but then we all grew used to it, the Ernie Ball guitar, Music Man. One of out of all the things I'm jealous, hair and talent. Come on now. Thanks, Rich, for the super chat. Getting to play Outshined with the actual Chris Cornell is at the top of the list. That was fun. It was really fun doing that song. I mean, definitely. Outshined was always busting into that riff was always a pleasure. There was others that were... I really like playing... well, there's a bunch that I like playing. I like playing Slaves and Bulldozers, Let Me Drown... what else? Gasoline was fun by Audio Slave. Say Hello to Heaven was always super fun to play, Hunger Strike was kind of like anxiety provoking because it's only me at the beginning and it's so simple, but you can't screw it up. About 100 times. Now, if you watch Pearl Jam, if you listen to the recording, is that how they did it? Yeah, so if you listen to it on the record, it's actually played like that. Pull off. On the G string instead of... So... let me see if I can do it. Right? But I was like, why is he doing the pull off when you can just go? So I asked Chris, I go like, hey, I was listening really closely to the record. I asked him after we'd already started playing the song, I go, I noticed on the recorded version, it's a pull off, but I go, it's kind of harder to play and you can't let the notes ring. Which way did you intend for it to be? Because I sort of assumed it was maybe, I think Stone plays the riff, right? With Temple or with Pearl Jam, and I asked him, I go, did you intend for it to be that way? He goes, no, do it the way you're doing it. And with just the arpeggiated, without the pull off. Chris was great at, he would never... ever ask you to do anything different unless he really wanted something different, and he would be very specific about it. But this was something I brought up, but I asked him, and very clearly he said, no, do it the arpeggiated way, the first way that you've been doing it. And I was like, okay. And I always thought maybe I never got a chance to ask him, but I always thought maybe he wrote it, the riff, And then, Stone played it on the record, but he learned it different. One of those things where it's not exactly the same, but Chris wanted it to be the arpeggiated way. I just found that interesting. I was like, I can do it either way. I'll work on it the pull-off way if you like the sound better. He's like, no. Do it he goes, I like it the other way. Kind of interesting, It's just wacky things about the guitar. You can play the same note in different places. Guitar. Oh, and by the way, thanks for that super chat. I appreciate that, Rich. You're a great example of what musicians should be, always giving. Thanks, man. I learn, like I say, every week from you guys too, and it's really fun being here every week. So I thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. Richard says, one of my fondest memories was seeing you with Chris at the Showbox. I remember that gig well. Really great night, as I remember. It was really fun. So we did the Showbox, and then we also did the Paramount, I think, in Seattle, and one other venue. I think we played 3 headline shows in Seattle over the years. Yeah. Okay. Are there any guitar teachers in the Los Angeles area that you would recommend? I'm an intermediate rock player. I'd like to improve my playing and improv technique. Dude, I got a guy for you. Jamie Kime, who's like he plays in the Zappa band. Zappa plays Zappa. He played in that band, and he's an unbelievable guitar player. And like just incredible guitar player with incredible hands and technique. Anybody out there that knows Jamie knows what I'm talking about. But he teaches Kime, that's how you spell his last name. If you can't find him, search him out on the internet maybe, and Jamie is his first name. See if you can track down his info. If you can't, hit me back somehow on here or something next week or whatever, and I'll figure out a way to DM with you or whatever. But I highly recommend it. I want to take lessons from him. I've been meaning to do it for a long time. So, as far as forget about it, as far as improv, and I mean, he kind of has he's totally got his own thing going on, but he's got a little bit of Scott Henderson in the way that he uses the bar and kind of chords, and he's just so vocal with his, phrasing and stuff, and yet his technique is like, it's like, geez, and he's got a deep harmonic knowledge, different chords and stuff. I really love the way he plays. So Lauren says that Rick Beato making huge announcements during Pete's live show. What was his huge announcement? Tell us in the chat. Then you don't have to leave to go over there to check it out. You can stay here with me. I love Rick. Yeah. What are you guys arguing about? Stealth Parrot and somebody else is arguing. What are you guys arguing about? Everybody be nice. I'm not getting on your case. I don't even know what you guys are talking about with one another. But let's see here. It's hard to find a good AIB pedal. What's an AIB pedal? Something in a box. I don't know what an AIB is. AC30 in a box, maybe? There isn't that many. Yeah, there's the Valve Energy Vox one. That's cool. To me, a Vox is so specific. Sort of the sound is related to every single part of the equation. Like it's the preamp of the amplifier, the power amp of the amplifier, the speakers, the cabinet. It's a whole combination of things. Super chat from Brian. Thanks, man. Modeler's Helix Fractal with 2 notes cab amp, PT Dynars is 100% killer. Thanks. I'm glad you like the Dynars we came up with. I use Helix with cab amp and PTIRs every weekend. That's cool. Though my PT100 is killer too. Would love to see you dial in some of your Dynars with modeled amps. Interesting. Yeah, I got to do one of these days too. I've been talking about this for probably over 2 years, but do something with the Line 6 presets, in their store, because I've been meaning to make Helix presets forever. So I did a few for Fractal, for the FM3 and stuff that you can find on their social medias. But I'd love to do, some packages for Line 6. I just have to devote the time. One of those things I said I'm going to do forever, and then I haven't yet. But thank you. I appreciate that. And thank you for the super chat. You guys are too kind. Thanks. Keeps the coffee flowing around here. The best cheap amplifier that sounds good. Cheap, I would say some of my favorites are the little Yamaha THRs, the Boss Katana, the little modeling amps that you can use to practice and stuff that are really, quite good for the dough, A Katana, even Sir has one and he likes it. He's like, this thing's great for the money, it's great for just sitting and jamming at home, low volume. So, yeah. Yeah. Seth says, I couldn't believe that a magazine costs about $15 each in a store now. The thing about it is, like, it's magazines and print media and stuff, it's all based on such a, it's a little archaic, when you can get information to people instantly over the internet, right? And I remember talking with somebody who's a very wealthy guy that his family owned newspapers in Ohio. They owned the Columbus Dispatch, big newspaper in Ohio, and he was a more kind of, I guess, forward-thinking. This is 15 years ago, 20 years ago, probably 20 years ago almost. He was a forward-thinking guy, and he could see the writing on the wall with the internet and print media, and where it was going to go. And he's like, we got to get on this. We got to get on this. And they were like, yeah, no, everybody's always going to want to read the paper, And he was like, they can't see it. They can't see where it's going. Anything that requires, gasoline and trucks, delivery, more time from the information as it happens to, point A to point B and all that. It's like, it's archaic, right? It's deck chairs on the Titanic, it feels like. So that's the only thing. But there is still something so nice and satisfying about picking up a glossy guitar magazine and flipping through it, I think. So, I don't think it'll ever totally go away, but that's why they're $15. You've got less people willing to buy ads, ad revenue, and all that kind of stuff, and it costs more to deliver all these things around the world, and more than ever these days. And it's just the way the wind's blowing, I guess. You guys are talking about. Oh, see, you still subscribe. So Fretboard Journal, Acoustic Guitar Mag, Guitar Player, Guitar World. Love them. I love them all, man. I still love them, I'm just not as, I guess, into it as I was in the 80s when I bought every single issue of it. I couldn't wait till I got a charge when I'd look on the newsstand, see a new Guitar Player. I'm like, it's out, I'd be super stoked. So I still like it, but Bruce says, I worry about the attention span of people. I do too. Social media is trending to shorter and shorter snips. Even YouTube is pushing creators to shorts. That's right. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. And that's why I think it's, if you're going to put out music these days, why it's better to probably do it EP or a song at a time. The album format, would be better served maybe to release singles, for over a span of time. I've talked about this before, and then end up with a full album, maybe include a couple bonus tracks, do a song a month or something for 10 months, and then add an extra one at the end and bundle it all as something special. Because you're asking a lot of people these days, I guess, to sit down and listen to an entire album, It's with short attention spans and whatnot. So I'm probably guilty of doing it here, jumping from question to question to question, and it's like interesting thing to interesting thing to interesting thing. Every 30 seconds, we're moving from topic to topic. We can never get too deep into anything, but it's part of it, I guess. I don't know. Can you talk about cascading amps? Does it typically involve using the preamp out, or does it refer to an attenuated power amp out of the first amp? Well, cascading, when it comes to, it's basically you're talking about running one thing into another. So a cascading preamps section of an amplifier could be, gain tubes running into one another, one gain stage into another gain stage into another. Cascading amps, I guess you could load down any amplifier and use it as a big overdrive box, So yeah, you basically, have an amplifier and crank it up and get a tone out of it, but now you need to bring it down to the kind of level that you can then send on to another gain stage of some sort, or just a power amp, I guess cascading could be, even seen as slaving, where you're taking an amplifier, cranking it up, loading it down to line level, taking that output maybe into some effects or not, and then into another tube power section, amping it back up to whatever level you want. So, yeah. You're saying, does it typically involve using the preamp out, or does it refer to an attenuated power amp out? It could be either, you know, I think. I don't think there's any hard and fast rules there. Somebody could say, I'm cascading the preamps of my two different amps by taking the preamp out on my 5150 or something and running it into, you know, my Marshall JCM 800 or whatever. Any amplifier that you could, you know, run by putting the power amp on standby, but and you could probably mod just about any amp to do this. But if you had a tube amp and you had a preamp out in it, or an effect loop send coming out of the preamp, and if you put the amp on standby, but that was still active, you could then take the preamp out and then run that into something else and cascade. You know? So, yeah. Okay. There's another super chat from Dion. All-time favorite Temple of the Dog. All-time favorite album, Temple of the Dog. Yeah, it's a great record. It's such an interesting record, you know, being done as a tribute to Andy, you know, Chris's best friend and roommate and stuff, and done before Pearl Jam really reformed, call it what you will, you know, with Eddie and stuff, but it was the early days of Eddie and Eddie Vedder, and then, you know, Soundgarden just about to really break with, you know, Bad Motorfinger and all that. But then both bands get quite famous quite quickly, and then the label realizes, hey, we're sitting on this album that's basically like a combination of two of the biggest bands of today, and then they, you know, decide to put it out. So it's an interesting story. There's a lot of honesty to it. It's about as honest as music gets, probably, that record, you know? And one of the things I love about that Seattle era is the honesty. I think that, you know, this, from the stories that Chris has told me, I'm fascinated by the arc of the bands of that era and how the big machine still existed, the record machine, and they got behind all these bands and basically gave them, you know, unlimited budgets just about, and like all the power of, you know, the big labels and stuff. But they were so, you know, all those bands were like, you know, the girl that you wanted to date in high school, but that you couldn't or get to, you know what I mean? It was all like when Soundgarden finally, you know, signed, I've talked about this before, to whatever label they were on, but Chris basically said they had full, like, creative control over everything, videos, album covers, what songs went on the record. You know, basically the A&R people weren't even, if they didn't want to, they didn't have to let them in the studio to hear roughs or anything. They just had to release their music and their art, essentially, as they wanted it. And that was the kind of deal they were able to negotiate with all the power they had at that point. It's a really interesting time in the record business, because it's maybe kind of one of the last times that, you know, it's completely transformed. Now the power is also in the artist's hands a lot. You know, I feel like with, you know, the way that music is being released now, and all the other, you know, it's taking off in ways that I don't understand, with, you know, NFTs and the blockchain and like all this different, like, you know, it's all changing rapidly and so quickly. But it's a fascinating time now. But that was also a really interesting time in the music business and for music in general. And that part of it is, well, the biggest part to me is the honesty with the music. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Rick Beato's big announcement was a beginner guitar course. That's interesting. I'd like to see Rick's beginner guitar course. I'd like to see how he kind of approaches it. Like, if you could start again and have Rick Beato be the bassist that you start from, because he's so knowledgeable, you know, I would find it to be pretty. Maybe I should take it and start over. Yeah. Please. I have to get to this. Thanks for reminding me. Dive as deep as you can on the Cinvertech MGAT-1 demo video. When you get to it, that box has 4 Marshalls in it. A lot to show, no rush at all. It's basically a Marshall preamp in a pedal that is like all the, you know, I think all the front ends of all those classic amps, JTM 45s, Plexi 800, in a pedal that he designed to basically be so close to the, you know, it's a crazy looking pedal too, with all the switches and the voicings and stuff, but, you know, it's in the size of a traditional pedal housing, and he's a madman over there making these crazy Marshall circuits all in in pedals, but I do want to check it out, and I look forward to that. So I'll get to this as soon as I can, like right after Thanksgiving here and stuff. I've got a video release to work on today and tomorrow to get kind of, I think I'm going to just get one more done before Thanksgiving, and then get that out for, should be Tuesday, I think. Tuesday or Wednesday? Tuesday or Wednesday. It'll come out, and then I'm going to take off for a couple days and just chill out. Okay. What else we got here? There's another super chat I got to grab there. Couple, actually. I've missed a few here. Sorry, guys. Just bought a Friedman Dirty Shirley Mini. Would the PT15 112 be a good fit? Yeah, actually. Dirty Shirley Mini is a little bit on, I wouldn't say it's a dark sounding amp, but it's kind of got a good neutral kind of voice. And the speaker is a little brighter, so that should be a really nice match for that amplifier. And it'll also probably fit nicely on top, I would think. Yeah, it should. It's a H75 creamback that's going to go in there. So in that cabinet. So yeah, it should work really well. Really, really well. What else we got here? Let's see. Demon says, back in the 80s, used to buy guitar for a practicing musician. Me too. Guitar World and Guitar Player, I had them all. What was your favorite? Guitar Player was the classiest and kind of like overall, you know. But Guitar for the Practicing Musician had the transcriptions, which weren't always accurate, but sometimes. And Guitar World was cool too. But Guitar World's always been kind of like the shredder rock mag a little bit more. Guitar for Practicing Musician, it was about the transcriptions, and then Guitar Player was it would have, I don't know, Jim Hall on the cover, and then Eddie Van Halen the next month. It was a little more, always the kind of like overall guitar picture a little bit more, not just a rock mag. Nothing wrong with the rock mag. So, let's see what else we got. What else? What else are you guys talking about? Looking for amps that have a good JCM 800 sound. I have a JJ Jr. and a Friedman 112, and I like it, but I'm curious what else is out there that's similar. Well, the other Friedmans are going to be similar, I guess. The aforementioned Little Sister and the Pink Taco 2. Little Sister's a little more middle of the road, less gain, still plenty of gain. A little darker, and the Pink Taco is aggressive and upper mid, a little more Jose. A P215 will get you there too, if you want that, plus the IRs and a true clean channel and stuff. So some good options. What's the difference between your PT100 and Sir SL amps? Maybe I should just show you. Let's just turn it on because I can do that now. It's kind of fun. Yeah. This one, it's good to go. Let's see here. I've got it in kind of full Van Halen mode right now. So, the SL. So, let's listen to the difference in the sound. Because I got them on the amp switcher, so. Let's see, make sure I got no pedals on. Go over to the SL68. Oh, is that working? What did I do wrong? Oh, there it comes. It's still warming up. This is on the Variac, so it's got the Variac, so it warms up a little bit slower than an amp running at 120. Ooh, it's distorting. Where's the distortion? I don't know where that's coming from. That's a good question. Doesn't sound too good. I literally don't actually know where that's coming from, so. A little troubling. Let's see if I can troubleshoot. It sounds like something in the digital realm that's distorting, but we've got the master way down on it. Terrible distortion that's happening. It just went away. If I go back. That's interesting. It went away. Oh, that sounds good though, doesn't it now? After it cleared up. I got it set a lot louder. I'm just going to bring the master back a little bit on it because it's a lot louder than the PT is set right now. So let's balance them out a little bit and listen to the differences. You know what? Let me see here. No, that's low voltage. Yeah. I got it on 90 volts. Still damn loud at 90. So this is the PT100. And this is the SL68. Both sound really good, don't they? Where's my window here? I lost you guys. There you are. Go to the end of the chat, and well, I got a super chat I got to grab there, and then I'll come back to the amps. Giving hope to attention span. My son and his school of rock friends went to see Trey from Fish, right? Oh, with Goose last night. Thoughts on him? You know, I don't know anything about him, dude. I honestly haven't ever checked him out really, and I feel bad about that. And maybe I should put a bit more time into that. So sorry about that, but I do appreciate your super chat. He's just one guitar player I've never checked out, you know. I could be totally missing the boat and an idiot, you know, but there's only so much time, I guess, for... Here's a... is that the super chat I just highlighted? Yeah, okay. I'll get one more here. Got an SLO pedal. Go a SLO pedal in AB against Riot Mini. Can't say there's much difference into channel 1. Yeah, you know, overdrive boxes, all things, you know, remaining equal. It's like... You're going to find that on a hard clip distortion pedal. If it's a good design and they've tuned it, you know, it's like it's not probably going to be that much different. A Riot Mini is actually, if I had to set, like both the SLO pedal as well as the Riot Mini are a more full sounding distortion box. That they're not as much Marshall. They're a little more like full spectrum distortion modern, you know, both the Riot and the SLO, I would say. So those would be similar, I would say. And the Riot Mini is killer for what it is, you know. SLO is great too, but Riot Mini is really killer. So, all right. So, what else? Let's see. Oh, Chris is mentioning here. Unless I was mistaken, I believe you played right around the block for me at the Paramount in Huntington, Long Island. I did. Yeah, I played there twice. I played there with Don Hanley back in the day, and then I played there with Five for Fighting recently. That's full Variac Plexi, and then this is the PT. It's a little quieter, you know. So louder is always going to sound better. So let's turn it up. I've got it cranking right now, though. The master's pretty high. So. Okay, so this is basically the difference between a Plexi or a high gain sort of modern amp. The Plexi is more, just got like, because it's like the power section, the phase inverter, and you're distorting the crap out of, you know, kind of the whole front end of the amp, which isn't super high gain, you know, but then it's just a combination of the whole thing. And I think a lot of it, the phase inverter. And then you get this. The beauty of this guitar sound is the body of the. Whoa, it's just so powerful when you hear like the full thing. You know what I'm talking about. It's that low end, you know. right? And when you compare it to the PT, a bit of distortion again. I'm not sure where that's coming from. That's really cool too, you know, and obviously it's easier to do at a lower volume, and I got a full clean channel and the whole 9 yards. But there's something magic about a Plexi, you know. That's why they make an SL68 still, and not just a PT100, right? So, will the crowd care? You know, when you're in the middle of your rock set, probably not, you know. But it is fun still just playing a 4-hole Plexi style amp. I love them. So there's no substitute. There's no free lunch. What else we got here? What is the model of that microphone boom? I need one for my setup. So this is a Gator, and it's Gator Frameworks, and it's just a terrific boom. It clips on the edge of the desk with a clamp, like a you know, that you whirl around the bottom, and then it clips your desk. You can also mount it with a hard. It comes with a hard mount that you could screw into something. You know, 3 screws, heavy iron kind of thing that you screw it into. But I've just got it clipped, and it works great because then I can, when I'm not doing the show and stuff, I can back this microphone off with this boom arm. And it's got 3 places that you can adjust the angle of everything, you know, kind of, and it's very heavy duty and cool. So it's a Gator. I like it a lot. Okay, what else we got here? What time is it? It's 1:19, so I'm going to hang out for about another half hour or so, 35 minutes. Can't hear it, please turn it up, says my knees hurt. I think you can hear it, can't you? You guys can hear me, right? Fabio says he prefers the PT100. It's tighter. You know, the PT100 is... Right? The Plexi. You know? It's broader and a little bigger, right? The PT100 is a little tighter. It's got more lows kind of filtered in the front end and stuff, and it's a little bit more controlled sound. This is on 10. This is the SL68 just dimed. So one thing you can do, you know, you don't have to run the bass all the way up. Ooh, actually wasn't. I had it back on about 6. So if I bring it down to like 4, and then if I dial the amp back a little, dial the treble back a little, dial the presence back just a little, you still get a ton of that raging tone, but it'll be a little more controlled now. This is kind of not actually with the optimum IRs either. Let me go back to a greenback. That was V30. That sucked. I suck sometimes. I totally suck sometimes. Who's this? Saw you play with CC at Shepherd's Bush Empire. I remember that gig well. I was just there, actually, right by Shepherd's Bush, and I felt all melancholy walking by it. I got to England to do this TV show, a morning television show, and the night before I took a walk, and I was staying close to Shepherd's Bush, and I walked over there, and there it was, that place. I played there with Melissa Etheridge, too, and good memories, you know. It's funny how venues are like, you know, you have such a good time at a gig, right? Whether you go see a show or whether you play a show, you have such a good time, and then you know, when you visit it again, you're like, oh, because it's just like, that's why it's so important to be present when you're playing gigs. Try and be in the moment and don't let it just go by. There's a lot of gigs I play. I'll watch videos now, and I'll see a video on YouTube or something of a, you know, Cornell show or another artist I played with, and be like, that's me, but I don't really remember that night. Like, I can't, what was I thinking about? You know, I wasn't like totally present, I guess, or I don't have a total memory of it. I guess that's probably to be expected when you play like, you know, 60 shows on a tour or something. But anyways, Tricky ground stylistically. It was tricky ground stylistically. It's true. Band carried it with such grace and respect. It was felt. Totally turned the room around. That's awesome. That's good to hear. Yeah, I felt like that was kind of my job, was to like, because that record was, it was difficult for some of his fans to understand. It was like, how are we going to do this? We're going to play this like a rock band, That was my approach to it, was, we have to play this like we play, like our band sounds, and then we should be okay. So, yeah. Yes. What else we got here? Let's see. The feed is loud, especially the guitar, says Lauren. Well, I can turn that down. That's easy. If the feed's loud, that's a simple fix. I worried it wouldn't be loud enough, but I can totally dial back that guitar sound. Better? I just pulled it down like 3 or 4 dB. I don't want to make too many. I'll go back and watch the replay of this later and make changes. See if it's like feed is perfect. That's awesome. I'm glad it's working out today and there wasn't any problems, because it's actually kind of complicated. Not really, but sort of more complicated than what I usually do. That's for sure. What classical guitar solo or theme do you fancy playing? That sucked. This is what is the intro to the Yngwie song? Black Star, right? I can remember things sometimes from my youth. They just are in there. I don't know. It just took me one time to get it and practice, and then I did it okay. Far Beyond the Sun, Green Sleeves. No, it's the intro to a Black Star, right, by Yngwie. God Made Rock and Roll. Sounds fantastic, says Rob. Thank you. Thank you. I just saw Brian May. That's right, I heard this. Richard says, just saw Brian May is working on a Starfleet box set. That's right. So it might be interesting to hear some outtakes, see what else can. I always, what did they do exactly with it? Wasn't Phil Chen on bass and Eddie and Brian May, and I can't remember who else was involved. Is that right? Was it Phil Chen on bass, I think? Yeah. I want to hear the good feedback that's lacking with IRs. Well, I can go like this. I can fake it. That's my freak out. The freak out pedal is awesome for what it is. It's really cool to be able to get that. In a recording, it sounds real. You can kind of hear that it's like simulated outside of but it works good. And add a little bit of room mics to that, and man, oh man. Here, I can do that right now. I'll turn up the reverb to an obnoxious level. Sure, why not? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that pedal delivers the good feedback. It does. That's the freak out, man. It's the freak out. Good stuff. It's awesome for anybody that uses in-ears or does home recording, or it'll satisfy that urge, definitely. And you hear me use it occasionally, in my videos where I generally don't mention it, but I'll hit a note end of a solo or something, and I'll just stand on it because it's right there. And that's why I put it in the bottom of my pedal board, right on the corner. It's fun to just stomp on every now and then when you're like, I want this to go crazy. Yeah. Okay. What else we got here? Let's see. Does Sir have a custom order sheet on their site? I'm interested in a guitar. So, without saying too much about it, because I don't know how much they would want me to, I don't. Maybe they have it up now. I don't know. But there was a thing where you can kind of, they're working on something where you can configure instruments basically. So it's coming. I don't want to, I'll get in trouble if I say too much because they like to keep things on the down low with that company, as most companies do, I guess. But they've been working on a really, really cool update to the website, and it'll allow you to kind of do things like that, I think. So, long story short, yes, that'll happen. I don't know if it's happened yet. I haven't looked in a while, actually, at the website to see if it's like that, but, okay. What else we got? What else are you guys talking about? It's almost time for lunch. I'm getting hungry, but I'm gonna stick around another 20 minutes or so. Braxall says, I'm interested in a Shure guitar. What's the best way to buy one that you would like? Live about an hour from... This mic's not coming through no, it's not coming through the speakers. Good. I live about an hour from Guitar Sanctuary. If they do not have one, what do I do? Well, you can custom order, or you can just start looking around. I mean, like, Wildwood, or they've always got some in stock, or Humbucker Music. Look on their website. Look at different dealers, and see if there's anything else out there that is interesting to you, somebody with a good return policy. So if you get it and you're like, yeah, this isn't for me, at least a 48-hour kind of approval or something. But those are just two stores I can think of, Wildwood, Humbucker, and generally they carry some stock, and and then there's always the option of custom order. It just means you're gonna have to wait, and it can be kind of a long wait, but you get exactly what you want then. So it's up to you. Have you ever tried the EVH 412 cab with EVH Celestion speakers? I have one, actually. It's in the other room. It's a great cabinet. And the nice thing about those EVH Celestions and the Heritage Greenbacks in general is that they're a little lower efficiency. So they work well with a loud plexi, something like this SL68. You can plug into them, and you will get a noticeable... It's not huge, but it's slightly quieter, than, say, a modern greenback. They're a 96 dB efficiency as opposed to 98. And that's significant. It statistically doesn't sound like much, I guess, 2 dB, but it is. You'd be like, oh, maybe I'll get my amp kind of cranked where I like it a little bit easier without needing so much attenuation or so much master volume, or they're just a little less efficient. It's a nice thing, in some ways, depending on the amp, Wouldn't work for my PT15 because I feel like with the PT15, it's 15 watt. We need efficiency out of the speakers in order to get it up to it's, unless you're wanting to play quiet, With the 15, I feel like I need a little more volume maximization. So that was part of the reason why we didn't go with 2 greenbacks, or with the Neo Creamback, which is kind of a very cool worn-in sounding greenback Neo speaker that's lighter, but they just sounded a little more laid back, and I felt like with the 15 it needed a little more volume, a little more headroom, and you can get that out of speakers actually if they're more efficient. So it works both ways, I guess. Yeah. Okay. What else we got here? Let's see. I'll just head down to the bottom of the chat, see what you guys are discussing. And then I'm going to go pretty soon. PRS HDRX amp. Is that the little one? I think that might be one thing I wish is that I could tell what it was from the name, but HDRX. I'm guessing this is a smaller... Yeah, it's a 20 watt plexi. That's right. I did hear a little bit about this, but... So it's similar to their big... Yeah, it's basically a baby plexi, JTM 45 style scene, probably, right? HDRX 20. Oh, they make it in a... Sorry. Just all the first ones that came up online were the were the 20s, but I see now it comes in a 50 and 100, so you can get it in 3 different wattages. So basically, you've got a presence bass, middle treble, and a couple switches for fine tuning. There's a switchable bright cap, it looks like, on the treble. And there's a master. It's a plexi with I'll have to try it. 20 watts, but 5881 power tubes. Must be just like a low voltage power amp with 5881s. That's interesting. Lower power, smaller size, organic voice, articulate tone. Probably be a nice sounding amp for those that want a kind of a Hendrixy sound, especially with the 5881s, you know, a little more getting into your 606 realm. Nice reliable power tube. Although probably not cheap these days. Everything coming out of, you know, the Sovtech, for obvious reasons, is super expensive now. So anyways, the 20 is $7.99. Wow, that's really quite inexpensive. Must be made overseas. Must be. But that doesn't mean it doesn't sound good. I'd like to try it. Christopher says, do you need a cloud lifter with the SM7, or is the Apollo mic pre enough to clean gain? I'm not using one right now, but I do have a lot of gain cranked on the mic. But I think it sounds fine, right? Do you hear any extra noise? I don't think so, right? Like preamp noise or anything? A cloud lifter is a thing that basically bumps up the gain of a dynamic, you know, not an active microphone that doesn't have much output. And that's one thing about the SM7. Some people say, you know, they're kind of low output, but it makes them work great on loud sources, you know. But you do need a fair amount of gain on the mic pre. Sounds fine to me, says Ben. I think so too. Basically the way I test this stuff is I used a software called StreamYard in order to stream out to you guys. And you can record and kind of test things in StreamYard. So you can do like a fake stream, basically, where it's going out to the software, but it's not going to the internet. It's just getting recorded, and then you can listen back to it. So that's how I tested all this stuff with the, you know, guitar sound this week, as well as the mic and everything, was recording it and making changes, and it seemed to sound fine. One guy was like, I can hear the hiss of the mic pre. You need a cloud lifter. I'm like, no, that's my guitar. That's just the hiss of the amp. And so I ended up putting a gate on the channel. Where is my channel here for the guitar? Here it is. So if I take the gate off, let me call up the software here. I'll turn off the gate. Now you can hear the hiss. That's just amp hiss, you know. Cranked plexi, but there we go. I gated it. So, you know, when I'm not playing, it, you know, takes care of that little bit of hiss. So. SM7 designed for war correspondence. That's interesting. We're going to war. We're going to rock and roll war. That's what we're doing here. That was so dumb. What a moron. What an ultramaroon. Sounds completely clean on this end. Are you using the Apollo? Yes, I'm using the Apollo. I've got, so the chain, for those that, you know, basically for my voice, it's SM7 right here, which you can get right now at Sweetwater. Sure, in Sweetwater. Special deal they've got going right now. That's what I did. And a Gator mic stand. And I got this plugged into my DBX 560 microphone preamp, which is just an unused mic pre I had in my 500 series rack over there. So running out of that, straight into my recording interface. And I'm adding a Manley Vox box, which is also preamping the sound a bit. I'm adding some gain using that. It's a plug-in version of the Vox box in UA console, and I'm using a fair amount of compression actually on the mic. So gaining up the signal a bit more with the Vox box, adding compression, and you can also do low cut and EQ and DS and all kinds of stuff with the Vox box. But I don't think I'm doing any of that right now. Let me see. I do have the de-esser on. I'm not sure if it's working or not. Might be. Hey, check 1, 2. A lot of gain reduction, though. I've got about 10 dB when I talk loud of gain reduction, which is giving it that radio sound. Yeah. Hopefully. I don't know. And then as far as the guitar goes, you're hearing right now, I mean, basically the output of my amp switcher. So I'm running 2 amps, my PT100 or the SL68. This is the 68. Into the Sur reactive load. Line out into my interface on another channel, and then I'm adding plate reverb and some stereo delay in UA console for a bit of shmush. And yep. What do we got here? Corey says, ever get into Tragically Hip? If so, ever learn New Orleans is sinking? I haven't. Or listen to Our Lady Peace, Ballad of Poet, their dedication to Gordy. I haven't listened to that, actually. I didn't know they did that. I get tuned out on the Canadian stuff because I'm down here so much, but I'd like to listen to that, actually. That's cool. I didn't know they did that, so I'll listen. I love Our Lady Peace, though. They're a great band. Did some terrific stuff. I was really moved when this is the singer of the Tragically Hip that passed away a few years ago, Gordy. They were a great Canadian band. Like I said, I'd moved to the States, and I just kind of missed the boat on them because I was gone in the 90s. I lived in LA, and they became very popular in Canada. Huge arena rock band in Canada. And the singer, unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago, and he had a terminal disease essentially, and they knew it was going to happen, and they decided to do one last tour, and it's moving, man. When you watch the shows from that tour, I didn't know that much about the band. I knew of them, but like watching the shows, it's like you become a fan just watching that, and seeing what they were going through, and it really felt like it brought the whole country together, like. At least from watching what I was able to see on the news and stuff and YouTube videos and stuff, it was just like it was a beautiful and tragic thing. This guy's dying, and they celebrated his life, essentially with music and did these great concert tour and beautiful shows. And then it's like cathartic when you see this guy. And then a few months after the tour, he passed away. This is just crazy, but that's life, I guess. We are all tragedies at the end of the day. So not to get heavy, but. It's an amazing story, really. It's about as, how much more perfect is it going to be when you've got a terminal illness, to go out and play with music with your friends and have your fans celebrate and everything is a beautiful thing. So thanks, Corey, for the super chat and for reminding me of that. I'll have to check out that song. Bruce, love the new setup. Being able to see and hear some playing examples is a value add. I think so too. Yeah, I was happy with the fact that I got through those Steve Morse warm-ups earlier without screwing up too much. So some of my favorite warm-ups. So let's see. Is the total sound coming through that mic? Not my guitar sound, but my voice, And you're getting some of the guitar, just the strings and stuff through the mic. But the guitar is coming out of... a load box into my interface, and so basically whatever I play through my interface, like I could go play iTunes right now and it would stream full quality tracks and everything. So this is going to be good. I'm going to be able to show audio examples and things like that on here if I want to, and it'll be cool. Loved your demo of the Tascam Model 12. Do you think there's a gap in the market for a high-quality version of that, like a mini Neve desk? Well, there's a few of those out. SSL kind of has some of that going right now. If you look at the, high-quality kind of, front end with simple preamps and a couple things, and all the way up to the, the API box or like different. I guess you're saying an interface too, right? The SSLs are, I think, though. I'd need to go look. Neve might have something, Rupert Neve Designs, that's similar. I know they've got summing mixers and things, but, yeah, I mean, it's cool, having a couple preamps and, EQ and simple, and then maybe for folks that want to mix analog a little bit and some analog, being able to do that. It's neat, All done right, analog 3 to 4K. But yeah, I think so, that it's a cool thing. I mean, maybe at some point UA would come out with something like that. I mean, when you think about if they could do, they kind of have that. They with their preamps and stuff that are virtual, they sound so good. I mean, you're hearing me talk through one right now, the Manly. They've kind of gone that way at it. But I guess they could do a cool, like maybe there's 710 preamp or something, like a solid state. Maybe they should come out with an interface that's got a couple of cool, high-quality solid-state preamps built in and an 1176 or something on the front end, with some simple analog stuff and, 4-channel interface or something. That might be neat. There's always room for more products, evidently. Do you ever get into groups who weren't guitar driven? Dude, totally. Yeah, I went through a whole phase in the early 2000s of only listening to like, more Chiba and Zero 07 and Massive Attack and Air and anything that didn't have mid-range in it, like guitar mid-range, Love it, just because it was so relaxing for me and a change, So you're saying Simply Red. Simply Red was great. Duran Duran. I never got that into Duran Duran, but I appreciate them now, Something about them bothered me in the 80s. I don't know what it was, but I appreciate them now. I do. And I liked the, Ordinary World was beautiful. That was Warren on guitar, I think, Cucurullo, right? That was an amazing song, And so I got into that, but it was more like the Hungry Like the Wolf stuff and all that. Now it sounds cool to me in a way. It's like, but back in the day when I was into AC/DC and Van Halen, I didn't get it, Which isn't to say I didn't get other music that, I loved a lot of stuff back then that was not hard rock, but they just didn't resonate with me. But now, in retrospect, yeah. This is nice. Todd Roy says, Gord Downie wanted to tour until he died. He wanted to spread as much love as he could. It was a very emotional time here in Canada. It seemed to be. It was like, people, I watched the last show, a lot of the footage of it where they were showing all across Canada, the watch parties. They had, big screens set up in parks and things or at different venues where everybody was watching this show. And it was like all of Canada was watching their last show, it seemed like. And it was really emotional, cool. It was nice to have something that was so uplift. Like I was very proud to be Canadian watching that actually, because it was, there's so much stuff these days where it's so, the vitriol and stuff is with whatever politics and all that can be so difficult. Which I feel like is abating a little bit, which is nice, to be honest. But we won't get into that on this show. But it feels like maybe we're getting away from that a little bit, which is nice. But the time when that was going on with Gord, I think it was kind of, I can't remember exactly, but it was 2015, 16, 17. It was around then. And I just remember watching the news coming out of Canada and watching those watch parties and stuff, and that it was like, oh, this is like the good side of humanity over here, These folks all just getting together. Nobody's talking about differences or about, being awful to one another. They're all celebrating together. It was really beautiful. So it was a cool thing. All right. What else we got here? Let's get back on guitar track, I guess, right? To the bottom of the chat. I'm gonna split soon. It's about 1:45, so I'll hang another 10 minutes or so, guys, and then I'm gonna jet. Oh my God, you didn't like Flock of Seagulls? I didn't really like Flock of Seagulls, no. Well, I appreciate it now. Hell, that guy's playing keyboard with one finger in the video, Now it's kind of funny, but, it's, yeah. Let's see. I was too into, I was listening to Iron Maiden and, Thin Lizzy and stuff then. I wasn't too into. What am I talking about? I couldn't have been into it enough. What's your favorite free plugin? I don't think I use any free plugins, to be honest. The Listen Mic compressor from Sound Toys, that was cool. It's like a really filtered, aggressive, kind of like a radio voice or something almost. Or you can run drums through it for trashy drums. I don't know if they still have it or not, but years ago it was basically it was the sound of the SSL consoles had a talkback mic on them. And, so there was a microphone in the console and you could push a talkback button and speak to the musicians that were in the live room. And that talkback mic had a lot of compression on it, evidently, I think. And it was kind of just like this little whatever electric condenser mic or whatever, right? And evidently they left it on or something during, I don't know if it was Phil Collins or some kind of session, and the drums kind of went through it, and they heard the sound of the drums going through the talkback mic with the incredible compression. It was like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. We have to record that. It's so unique. So that's the Listen Mic plug-in, kind of emulates that SSL talkback mic with its compression and running. You can run anything through it and run, drum sounds or guitar sounds or vocals and get a very unique kind of aggressively clamped down on crazy sound. So that was cool. Other free plugins, I can't think of any right now, but that was one that was unique and cool. Check it out if it's still out there. What else we got here? Thoughts on Jam Origin software? Don't know anything about that. Sorry. You never tried the free UA Ampeg SVT? Oh yeah. Well, yeah. So I've got that and the Marshall. I don't really like the Marshall plug-in, to be honest, but it doesn't sound. You want to hear a really, really, really harsh Plexion? Here's a Plexion 10. I don't know where that distortion's coming from. I have to figure that out. Anyway, it's something digital. Ooh, and the level just went up. Maybe a patch bay thing, maybe. Might be that channel. Maybe that. Might be the back of my patch bay. You guys ever have that happen? If you ever get like level jumping up and down, and if you have a patch, it's usually a patch point. And you need to get in and spray it out with deoxit and stuff, because those cables over the years, there can be oxidation and stuff. So if you hear any kind of weird sound you can't track down, like a, and then you hear sometimes level jumping up and down, it's probably my patch bay. But anyway, that's a Plexion 10, basically. It's on 9. You will not get that sound out of the soft tube Marshall plug-in. It sounds really harsh, the way that it's just not great. But anyway, the SVT, that's a Brainworks plug-in, and it does sound really good. But I've got the full-featured SVT. It's a more limited. It's just one channel and like a couple IRs in the free one. It's cool, definitely cool. It's cool, but you know the bigger one is the one I've used for years. So bigger, more full-featured one. I mean, like. That said, it's kind of interesting. I find it a little more difficult to get a sound out of the SVT plugin, the Brainworks, than I do the B15, which is instant gratification for me. So the B15 sounds great. SVT, I want it to be great, but I have to fight a little more and I have to search through the IRs and like do certain things to the sound that I find more difficult. And I found sort of other SVTs that I like more, like actually the Helix SVT is fantastic. And the way it just pulls up on the channel, and it just sounds really good. So that's an easier one for me. Your mileage may vary. I still feel like a little lost out in the ether in the woods when I'm doing bass. I'm not an expert in bass guitar sounds, and I enjoy it. But I'm like, does this sound good or not good? Like with guitar sound, I'm like, that's cool. I know, or it sucks. You know, I know. With bass, I'm like, does that work? I think it works. I think so. Can I hear it in the mix? I think I need to add more high end, but I'll fix it in the mix. And I'm like a little more like, that's just me being honest about it. Like I don't have an honest, like this is an awesome bass sound. One of the instant gratifications, okay, so the UA B15 is awesome for warm, kind of earthy, anything Motown or anything kind of, you know, just warm singer-songwriter, like not aggressive hard rock, but other stuff where you just want nice, full, warm P bass. The B15 is killer. But the GK 800 plug-in, great for like really clean, you know, if I play my Warwick through that with like a little compression and I want like kind of an 80s thing, just to talk about Duran Duran or something. But bass sounds like that, like more like clean, new wave or something, you know. It's that GK 800 is killer for that stuff. It's got clarity, but it's also full sounding, but not too fat sounding. It's just got, it's very present in the mix and very clean. It doesn't do distorted bass, but yeah. There's an episode of Produce Like a Pro where Warren had Hugh Padgham on. That's awesome. Hugh Padgham's a legend. Explained the whole drum sound and how they had to rewire the console. It wasn't a talkback mic. It was a room tap. Well, I don't know. I only know the story from the plug-in, which was, hey, it's the Listen mic compressor from the, you know, maybe it was that, but I thought it was the talkback mic, you know. I thought the way that Sound Toys described it on their website. Could be wrong. Maybe they just used the compressor in the console and then put a room mic out or something and ran it through that. So maybe it's just the compression circuit, you know, maybe it's not including the talkback. How do you prepare for auditions besides learning material? Oh, dude, I've got a whole video on, it's in the So You Want to Be a Pro Musician playlist on my channel called, you know, auditioning, how to audition and get the gig or something I call it. I can't remember, but you'll find it you look on my channel in the playlist on the main page. And yeah, I go over everything basically. But, preparation is key. Being a nice person is key. Bringing the right gear, the right guitar. Don't bring your pointy jacks into a country audition kind of thing. Or maybe these days that'd be cool. Maybe it's totally the right thing. But you know what I'm saying. If you're showing up to audition for a Don Henley, like when I did, he was like, "Got any Fender amps?" with whatever. I think I brought a Marshall. Brought my old the only amp I had at the point that I did his first audition with Don was a DSL 50, and that's what I took. Gate on there. So anyway, DSL, that's what I took, and he was like, "Got any Fender amps? Maybe it wasn't the best amp to bring." Main thing is be a nice person, be a good hang, just be relaxed. I'm reminded of this these days. Won't tell you why, but yeah, basically just being a good person, just be normal around rock starry people, and they'll appreciate it. If you can be disarming and put them at ease, nice, cordial, polite, respectful, all those things. But then rock like hard and be a badass when it comes time to play the songs, and then be nice. That's the key. So in order to do that, you need to be as relaxed as possible. How do you do that? I don't know. Being relaxed can be really difficult when you're under pressure. But you just do your best, I guess, to not get freaked out and stuff. This is interesting. Jay's see, you guys teach me things. It sounds like a bit of an authority on this. Hugh has said 2 different things, including that it was the talkback. That was always I was under the impression it was they called it the listen mic and the listen mic compressor, on an SSL. So maybe they tried different things. Maybe they tried using the talkback, and then they're like, what if we were able to access the electronics that this mic is hooked up to, the compressor, but we could run any mic through it, a room mic. Let's figure that out and rewire the board or something to do it, Could be. That would make sense to me. Here's a good, Ben. Yeah, bring in the band's favorite cold snacks. Yeah, that'll never be a bad thing if you bring in snacks. Is the PT 100 closer to the Custom Audio 100? It's pretty far off because it's a different, Custom Audio 100 originally was a 5881, a 6L6 based amp with a kind of a different front end, pretty different, a lot more filtering, bigger fat grain distortion kind of amp. The PT100 gets much closer to a traditional Marshall spec in the power amp and the preamp, more like a hot rod Marshall, So not worlds apart. Not like we're not talking about the like one's like a blackface Fender and the other one's like a diesel or something. It's not like worlds apart like that. Yeah, it's a modern gain amp with gain stages, that were, the OD100, the original custom audio, cascading gain stages, and I guess, more Marshall-based preamp, but with many differences, I think, compared to the PT. PT's closer to a Marshall is all I'm saying. What else have we got here? Have you ever tried Kinman pickups? I haven't, actually. I haven't. That's funny. I've heard them in videos and watched and stuff, and, I didn't mean to suggest this at all, by the way, but Don Henley legend that he is sounds like kind of a jerk. He's a nice guy to me, man. I had nothing but good times with him. He's just like his Fender amps, that's all. Don was a good guy to me, man. He was always cool. He wants things the way he wants them, and he's a serious guy. So when he joked around and there was levity, that was actually really nice because, he's generally a pretty serious cat. But he was always polite. As long as I did my job and I didn't do anything stupid, which I maybe did once or twice, and I got the scowl, but I kind of deserved it, That's the reality. I didn't find him an exceptionally hard person to work for. The people that are harder to work for in this business to me are the if they're unpredictable or nut jobs or hardcore narcissists or I don't think Don is like he's not like some of the some people are just like rock stars or it's tough personalities to deal with Don's not like that. He's more like the boss at a company that is just serious and wants things to be right. He really cares about the quality at the end of the day, you know? It's why they're so hardcore about YouTube and about, he doesn't like there being versions of their music out there that aren't perfect. I get that. It's like he wants things to be, he's proud of his art and he wants it to be represented in a way that he feels is, he wants to be the buck stops here, you know? I don't have a problem with that, you know? It's difficult in this day and age, you know, with the I don't know if it's, you know, I think it's kind of next to impossible, but I appreciate his dedication to wanting things to be right. And I also appreciate his dedication to artists making money the way that they used to, you know, in the ways that they could, and that he felt like that was, you know, intellectual property and the value on it and what's happened. You know, we've seen what's happened in the music business as streaming came in and as, you know, that kind of, you know, how it's, you know, and they're not, he used to be an advocate for a more effective union, you know, for artists. You know, for a while they were talking about starting another union, I think, you know, and he in many ways he can come off as being kind of hardcore, I guess, to people, but I think as far as being an artist or being a musician, I think his heart's in the right place a lot of times, you know. So that's my honest assessment of Don. I like Don. I'm very proud to have worked for him, and I'll always be thankful. So I like the fullest of the mid-range of the UA Marshall. My real 50-watt plexi sounds a bit papery in that area by comparison. That's interesting. I could just never get it to sound good cranked, really. It never, like a cranked plexi sounds cool to me. I mean, here, look, let's do it one more time before I get out of here. Just because it's so fun to be able to do this. But this is my 50. I'm going to basically dime this thing. And we're going to listen to it. Real Marshall 50, 71. And then go do it to the UA after I do this and listen to what it sounds like, you know? Wait, I hope I don't have that crackling. It might be my patch bay. It's working right now. So that's the SL68. I'm going to go to the 50-watt Marshall up there at the top. So warming up. Sounds great. Didn't have to try, right? It just sounds really good. Go, if you get the UA Marshall plug-in, turn it on 10 and listen to what it sounds like. It doesn't sound like that, you know? It goes like it sounds like, oh God, it's like, you know, really weird sounding. So I don't know what was going on with their Marshall that they modeled, but it ain't that. So I'm just, you know, people say sometimes I'm never critical. Well, I was just critical. How about that? Well... trim bar vibrato, do you bend down or up or both? I do both. I've noticed my trim is a little bit off. Like I have to adjust this one again, but normally what I'll do is a whole step on the G. Not quite making it right now. And then a half step on the B. It's not quite making the whole step on the G, so I need to go and tweak the bridge a little and have it sit a little more forward. That's how I set mine. So if the bridge is parallel with the body, it doesn't quite get there, I need to set the bridge just to be a little bit forward, and then I can get the full whole step on the G and the half step on the B. But that's basically what I do with it, you know. And then I can get the smooth vibrato on chords where I'm basically going up and down at the same time, which is how I like to use it sometime. Yeah. Love Boys of Summer. That's such a good song. Agree. Yeah. It's such a... right? No. Great guitar parts. I used to get to play on that. Nice little parts. Simple, but just enough, So cool. Yeah. Yeah. If you try to control who hears your music in a micromanagement way, no one will ever hear your music. Well, the Eagles were in a different time, so they just came from, I guess maybe there's a luck element involved that their career happened to coincide with a moment in time that worked really well for the way that they were releasing music then, and they just sort of lament the disappearance of that business model, I guess, which I get, things are moving forward at a pace, and it's not really advantageous to the artist the way that things have gone. Artists have to basically, it's very difficult to tour now and make money. It's very difficult to sell music and make money. It's not happening, basically. So you need to make money other ways. So it's just created, it's not really about getting your music heard as much as, it's great to make music and get it heard. That's the number one way to do it. But that takes money because it takes time to make records. It takes time to invest time into your art. And if there's no incentive, if you can't make a living doing it, like if it's just not possible, if it's not possible, then less and less people will do it, and we'll have less and less great music made, So there's got to be some kind of balance. And I appreciate, even though some people might not agree with, the way, how hardcore that, say, a guy like Don is about it, or Irving Azoff or whatnot, they're trying to do something to preserve that, and other artists will benefit from that if there's a way found. Now, that ship may have sailed, so I don't know, but I don't disagree with what, it's a difficult thing. If you made money, you release some records and you were like, this is great. It's a supply and demand. People want my art. I'll make art. I'm having a good time doing it, and you're doing it, and it's great, and everything's great. And then that just goes away. And people are like, well, it should be free. Well, wait a second. Like, it was this other way for, you know what I mean? I understand that doesn't work with his, So, anyways, Dirty Laundry is one of the best songs ever written. Absolutely. That's a good one. We used to open with that every night. On tour with Don. I love playing that song. Big old Joe Walsh solo right out of the gate I got to play. It was fun. Still crank Boys of Summer in the car. Dude, I remember waking up to it on the radio, like when I was in junior high and stuff. So to be able to play it with him all those years later was like not lost on me. Some of those songs, it's one thing to play like with all the other artists that I got to play with, but playing Eagles songs felt like this is these are some of the biggest songs, most popular songs ever written. Like, playing Hotel California and getting to play the solo, you kind of have to mind over matter it and not think about it too much, because it can screw you in the head, when you're doing it. But to do it and then be like, that's the guy back there. That's the guy that sang it, that wrote it, as you're doing it, is really a pleasure, It's very special. So there's a weight to the music, that you just want it to be great. So anyways, Robert says, maybe if you can reduce the text you displaced, you don't have to move, and we can see your guitar playing. I don't know about that, Robert, if there is a way to do that or not within StreamYard. That might be possible, but not that I know of. I will have to ask somebody that knows more than me. That fretboard looks perfect. Thanks. Yeah, this guitar, now you see why I went ebony, because it just looks so cool on the black headstock and the black pickguard and stuff. I got a split tune. I went over it, but that's okay. It's just with the colors that I chose for the guitar and stuff, it was really an aesthetic decision, the ebony, and it turns out it sounds cool too. So, I wasn't sure, let's try and build it with ebony and see what it sounds like. I liked ebony on my Les Paul Custom and stuff, but it's kind of unusual on a guitar that's bolt-on neck with singles and stuff. So it works great. I love this guitar. Another great Sunday chat, says Todd. Okay, guys. Well, I guess I should split, but I hope you guys, it's Thanksgiving week. That's right. Somebody was saying have a wonderful Thanksgiving. I agree. You guys, if you're in the U.S., have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy yourself. And, enjoy your week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And just generally enjoy yourselves. And thanks for being a part of my debut stream with the new audio setup. Thanks to Shure and Sweetwater getting me hooked up with an SM7B, as well as this great Gator stand. There's a promotion going on there. If you guys need a 57, a 58, or you want an SM7 or any of that stuff, it's on through the end of December at Sweetwater on all Shure stuff. So there's deals to be had. All right. Thanks so much. Love you all. Take care. Have a great week. Be kind to one another. Take care.